Good morning, can you hear me?
Good morning, Brenda, I can hear you.
Hello, Richard, how are you?
I'm very well, how are you?
Can you hear me?
I think so, we close. Yes, Brenda, I was able to hear you. I don't know whether you were asking me again.
I was saying, how are you?
I'm very well, how are you?
I'm good, nice to see you.
Yeah. Nice to see you too.
How is business on that end?
Well, a bit slow, but picking up bits and pieces from operating in the new normal. So,
Sorry, you're not very clear. Let me try to.
Oh, it's not clear enough, eh? Oh, I'm not loud. Am I audible? Am I loud enough?
Yes, now I can hear you. Just a minute,
Okay.
maybe it's on my side. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's very clear. Apparently, I can hear you very well.
You can.
Yeah.
You're a bit low, I don't know why.
Let me see my settings just to ensure that the volume is not too low. Hello, is that better?
Yes, I can hear you.
I hope that is a better sound level. I put it at 75% volume.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. Or else I'll have to speak louder.
Pardon?
I will probably have to speak very loud. Okay, I can see a message from someone on the call. They say they can hear loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. In a few minutes, we'll be starting off. I just wanted a few more people to log in and then we can start off. So you're welcome to our Service Export Readiness training today. For those who have been with us in the past virtual trainings we've had on services, you noted we had our associations. We had a meeting with associations. We had another one with companies. But today it's a little different because we are going specific into the export readiness training. And for those who have submitted their assessments, you know what export readiness is about. It is a drive where UEPB is focused on getting exporters prepared to export. Now we have done this with services companies, And today we are specifically looking at, we've done this with products, sorry. Today we are specifically looking at services. So we will have a number of panelists who will take us through very specific areas of exports of services. And then we shall have a session of Q&A where you will raise your questions. And we'd like to request that you all put your questions in the Q&A section so that at the end, when it's time for questions, we can review those. We also encourage that you put your comments in the chat room so that whatever is not handled probably in the presentations can later be looked at. So in today's training, we will have about 4 speakers, 4 panelists, but this is a 2-day training. So we'll have today and tomorrow. And there will be very topical issues about how to prepare yourselves to export services. The Uganda Export Promotion Board will be rolling out these trainings. For those of you who won't pick the full detail, because today and tomorrow are more general, but with time we shall have the detailed kind of trainings where we will have very specific topics handled per training. So ladies and gentlemen, in a few minutes, we shall be having our executive director coming in to open our meeting. Then after him, we should have the Minister of Trade, but unfortunately, our panelists have sent in a request that he will come in tomorrow. So we will have the ED doing a topic on marketing, areas to include, while exporting or looking at exporting of services. Then today we also have Mr. Richard Okuti, who will take us through the capacity and capabilities to produce for dynamic buyers' needs. So for services, please keep in mind that we are talking services here. Then today we shall also have somebody from Enterprise Uganda who will take us through the financing aspects of service of exports. Now we hope our program will have concluded by 12:30 or thereabout, and we'll be able to cover all these topics, including questions from you. So the more we get questions in the chat room, the easier it will be for us to go through our program. So ladies and gentlemen, in a few minutes, I will request that we introduce ourselves. I will be calling out one by one. The person who will introduce themselves, you tell us who you are, the company you're working with, and the services you plan to export or you are exporting already. So we'll go through introductions and then we'll start our session with opening remarks. So thank you very much. I'll get back to you in a few minutes. Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, you're very welcome again. Uganda Export Promotion Board Service Export Readiness Training. Like I had taken you through, we shall now start with introductions, and I will be calling out a name, and we can progress with telling us your company and what your names, your company, and what you do in regards to exports. So I'd like to request Colin, Jolie, and Yek to start to introduce themselves. Colin, are you on? Colin? Colin, can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello, Colin. Please introduce yourself.
Yes, good morning. I'm Anya Colin Jolly from Japotech Solutions, Ghana Limited. Our services for exports, telecom installations, mobile app applications, and training services.
Okay, thank you very much, Colin. Can we have Dean? Dean, are you with us? Please introduce yourself. Hello, Dean. Colin, kindly mute you. Okay. Yes, Dean, please proceed. Okay, we can proceed to Donald Ochen. Donald Ochen. Donald.
This is Donald Ochen from the Business Accelerator Consulting Group.
Yes, please.
We offer business consulting services, which include strategic management and financial accounting, tax and corporate services, SME and corporate business development, microfinance consultancy, business assurance, value chain analysis, and development consultancy. We also do organization management and development. Thank you.
Thank you, Donald. We'll now go to Doreen. Doreen Lukandwa, can you hear us? Please proceed and introduce yourself. Doreen, you can unmute and introduce yourself. Okay, we can't get Doreen. We'll proceed with Douglas.
Yes, hello everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, Douglas, we can hear you. Please proceed.
Yes, so I'm Douglas Baguma from Innovex. We manufacture and distribute Yaka meters for solar systems, off-grid solar systems. But our service is remote solar monitoring. We must have missed out on the training for companies with products. So maybe we could pick up a few lessons here. Thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome, Donald. Thank you. And next, I will have Gabrielle. Gabriel, can you hear us? Please unmute yourself and... Hello, Gabriel. Okay, we don't seem to have Gabriel on now. I'll proceed to John Dabasa. John, you can unmute and introduce yourself, please. John, can you hear us? Okay, we don't seem to have John on that side. I'll go to Monica. Monica Etima. Can you hear us, Monica? Please unmute and speak to us. Okay, I will go next to...
Hello.
Yes, Gabriel, you're on now.
Hello. Hi, Brenda.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. This is John. So sorry, I was trying to unmute, but I was having a challenge with my computer.
Okay,
Thank God I'm now here. So my name is John Dabarasa.
John, you have muted yourself again.
Hi, Brenda.
Okay, go ahead now.
So,
I can hear you.
It told me that the host has muted you, and I thought maybe you wanted someone else to speak.
No,
anyway,
go
my
ahead.
name is... So my name is John Dabarasa, and I work closely with Richard Okuti at ITC on the Netherlands Trust Fund project. My role is really to work closely with the tech startups. We are currently supporting over 40 tech startups who we are introducing to be...
Sorry, it seems we have a challenge with you.
Hi, brother, do you hear me now?
Now we hear you, yes.
Yeah, it keeps saying that the host has muted you. I don't know why. But let me just finish quickly so that maybe we can move on to the next person.
Please.
Basically, I am working closely with Richard, and I'm working with more than 40 startups in the IT sector, providing them with business linkage opportunities to investors, foreign markets, as well as partnerships, but also looking at capacity building, where we are training companies on the basic business fundamentals, from their business models to understanding who their customer is, and even getting an international market go-to strategy. So yeah, I'm happy to be here and looking forward to the discussion with UEPB and all the other companies and the different stakeholders that we have on the call. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. Mr. Muhammad.
Yeah, hello, good morning.
Hello.
Exports Promotions Board seminar and very nice training. I'm Mohamed Mpezamhigo. I'm the Vice Chancellor of Kampala International University, the Gold Award winner for export in the sector of education, higher education actually. So I'm glad to be here, and I'll be a panelist tomorrow as well in the two-day session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have Gabriel back? Gabriel, you're unmuted. Can you please introduce yourself? Okay, we don't seem to have Gabriel yet. Finally, Paul Onek. Paul, please introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you. You can hear me, Brenda?
Yes,
My name is Paul Onek from Japotech Solutions. Locally, we are more known for internet connectivity. So we partner with the MTN, Liquid Telecom, and Smile to power your home. If you have children learning from home, you can always use our internet. If you are working from home, connecting to this Zoom meeting, contact us for affordable internet, going as low as 150,000, 200,000 per month, unlimited. And also offices. I know that some of the offices of the team members of this meeting are already connected by Japotech Solutions. And we have just launched our brand new mobile app called Find Nyumba. So you may be having a hassle of getting a house because you're so busy doing the work at the office, but you don't know how to move from one house to another. So you just download Find Nyumba from the Google Play Store, and then you install it. So this is one of our latest innovations. Export market, we are pushing telecom installations, which is one of our core services, as well as trading. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I'll charge you for that advert. Okay, welcome to the training. Okay, finally, I think we have Sylvia Nakafero. Sylvia Nakafero, please introduce yourself. Sylvia.
Yes, hi, good morning.
Good morning, Sylvia.
Hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
I'm Sylvia Nakafero from Practech Communications Limited, company that deals in a variety of IT solutions, ranging from consultancy, support to digital forensics. Glad to be here.
Thank you very much. I think we now know whom we are talking to. And without wasting any more time, allow me to request our Executive Director, Mr. Eli Twineo Kamjisha, to give us the opening remarks as we start off the training. Edie, you're welcome.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope it is morning in all the places you are. This being a virtual seminar, and being the new way of life, one expects that some of you are even sitting sometimes in your 90s on your bed and a computer in your corner. Some of you are in your kitchen. Some of you are in different places. Nonetheless, we are doing our work. Uganda Export Promotion Board is very happy to be with you this morning. More importantly, to discuss export readiness for companies that are involved in export of services. This meeting would, if we had no COVID pandemic, would have been in some conference room where we would be seeing each other and talking to each other. But nonetheless, I think this system, and that's why the founders of Zoom have made a lot of money, because they were prepared. So we in service marketing, we in trading services must be ready to compete regardless of the circumstances. And that's why a while later I'll be talking about marketing of services, export of services, which is a very important component for you being successful, especially in the international arena. We thank the International Trade Center, our partners. I can see Richard's cheeks somewhere there. I have also seen John Darabasha all the way from wherever he is anyway. And also we to thank our different partners in IT and TIs, and our other partners in other service associations. At Export Promotion Board, where we have agreed and resolved that we will be working with associations more closely, because it is not humanly possible that we can reach out to every company, but via associations, it will be possible. So we can reach you, we can build your capacities, we can handhold you, we can take you to markets, and when you get orders, government will be able to create more jobs, we get more taxes, we expand GDP. Today's meeting, therefore, is important to you as companies. What does it mean when we say export readiness? And we shall continue to discuss the issue of export readiness, because even in the middle, when you think you're already successful, you may find that actually you are not as successful because some components of export readiness have not been covered. You have not looked at them, and even the government as Uganda Export Promotion Board and others have not been able to support you. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to take this opportunity to welcome you and open this meeting officially. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edie. We fully appreciate the opening remarks. And Edie has given a brief about what export readiness is about and why we have to continuously do it. Edie, I'll request that you continue straight into your presentation, because our panelist from Ministry of Trade is not going to be able to be with us today. He has other commitments. So he has requested that he will be with us tomorrow. I'd kindly request that you proceed with your presentation on marketing areas to include in service exports marketing. Thank you very much, Edie. Edie? Okay, as we wait for the Edie to get on, I realized that Gabriel from Uganda Airlines was with us. I hope he's on. Gabriel, are you with us? You can introduce yourself. Okay, give us a few minutes. The executive director will be on shortly. Gabriel, are you with us? Okay, thank you, Edie.
sharing. You go and rush and tell Brenda that I'm already sharing the screen. I hear her sharing. What do we do? I'm already sharing the screen.
So, Edie, I can hear you. Edie, I can hear you. Your presentation is clear.
Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can, Edie.
I want first come in to begin with the apology that I was not the one supposed to be. I was supposed to come after, and Brenda has and Stella have ambushed me. Nonetheless, I am here to present. I pan their head afterwards. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are looking at export readiness and marketing of services. Like I said in the introduction, if you are seeing the screen, all of you? Am I sharing well? Is the screen shared?
Yes, I can see your screen from my side.
You can see me?
Yes.
Brenda, is everybody seeing me?
Yes, Edie, we can see your screen.
Okay. So we need to, like I said in the previous segment, we need to talk about the issue of marketing of service exports, because then it is important. No one produces products so that he can consume them, all of them. That would be subsistence, and subsistence has made some of our countries remain in poverty. We produce products so we can make money out of these products. We produce products so that people can buy them. And that becomes important for us. But for, again, as Uganda Export Promotion Board, we encourage every company, every other company that produces a good product or a service to market it, to sell it locally and to sell it abroad. And we needed to know that services are a bit more difficult to market. Services are a bit more different from physical products. And once we get it right, we make more money. By the way, once we make it right and get it right at services, but I thought Brenda told me the slideshow was on.
Did you just make your screen full screen?
Yes, that's so. You didn't. No one told me. They had not. They again. I was seeing and yeah, sorry that they had not told me right. So services are important, and once you get it right, you make more money from selling services than from selling merchandise exports. As you realize in the world, the things or the item that sell more, the first one is money. Unfortunately, money, buying money, money exchanging for money. If you look at all the stock exchanges and security exchanges, the next one is services. Number two in the world is services. This one, which we always, we know all the time, we are obsessed with merchandise exports, which means physical products, is the last one when we are ranking exports in the world. There are services that can be exported. There are services that cannot be exported. Services that can be exported, we call them tradables. Services that cannot be exported, we call them non-tradables. There is a problem in typing here. So those that cannot be exported, we call them non-tradables. You cannot export a house that you have built in Nakasero, where we work from. It will be impossible. But you can export IT services. You can export labor. You can export consultancy. You can export logistics, transport. And you know that you can export tourism, of course, and you know a host of other services that you can export. services, like I said, are more different to market, to promote, to export because of their characteristics. You can't touch services. Sometimes you can't see them. That's why you need to record them. That's why you need to get a way of storing them. They are intangible. You can't see them. You can't touch them. You can't smell them. When somebody is selling a product, he will show you a mobile phone and say, "This is a handset. It works this way. Blah blah blah," and you buy it. Services production sometimes, most cases, is what we call simultaneous production and consumption of a service. I use the simple example of an haircut. Somebody is trimming your hair. He's providing a service. He's producing a service as you're consuming it. And that's why sometimes we say the producer of services is a co-consumer and the consumer is a co-producer. You have to be careful of these characteristics so that when you begin to sell, it is important how you manage them. Service, you can't provide the same service all the time to different customers, different times of the day, different times of the year, different times of seasons, winter, summer, autumn, and spring. You cannot. Even an example of an haircut I'm talking about, somebody who has been cutting, trimming different people from morning. When you come in at 5, either he's more tired or he has learned more ways of making you look better than the one he cut first in the morning. They are perishable. The perishability of services is too much. Is too much. You can liken them to goods that require cold storage, and then you have no storage and they all perish. So they cannot be stored, but you can find a way of recording them, of keeping them, of presenting them for the future to see. When you don't, if you prepare to provide this service and you don't provide it, or you want to provide more and you get less customers or clients, you have lost money. And that brings us to what we call the service mix. That brings us to what we call the marketing, the 7 P's of marketing. The product, and when we talk of the product in services, we are referring to the product package. When you go to banks, insurance companies, tour agencies, airlines, they give you what they call packages, product packages. How they, and it is important, again, how they package them, but it is also important how they price them. You can have different prices for different packages of services. You go to a hotel and they tell you this package includes bed and breakfast, but also you could have some light lunch, or they even tell you no bread, it's a bed and you sleep. And different packages come with different benefits. And the price is different. And the price is important. In the services, we have to be careful how we do services. Some of you who are in professional services and are doing consultancy, you know that what makes a difference between you and another good consultant is the pricing, especially when you're involved in, say, tendering, especially government procurement. Price. Where should you price a restaurant? Where should you have a holiday resort? That is very, very important. You have to think about it. The position, the price, the convenience. Do you get more people coming in, or you get no people coming in at all? And the promotion is a host of many things. When you package it, how do you package it? How are you branding yourself? How do you present it to the people who are clients or potential clients? In marketing, we say you begin as a suspect. Later on, you become a prospect. You continue until you become a customer and you become even an advocate of the company. How do you promote your product that you attract people, clients, companies to buy them and keep buying them? Now, with services, we also talk about physical evidence. People want what we would call tangibles. What is the where is there evidence that there is a hospital here or health facility? What is the evidence that there is a church here? I know I rarely talk about church, forgive me. This is the only time I think I've used it. What is the evidence that there is a hospital here? What is the evidence that there is a school? What is evidence that there is a hotel, a bar, a holiday resort, cottage, a tourism site? What is the evidence that it is there? So tangibles, you have to think about tangibles as well as you promote a service. People in many ways, and I'm going to show you at the next slide. This was like an a cappella was a summary of it. People matter in all cases. People as your employees, people as your clients. Processes. Makerere University, some of us who are very happy to be alumni of Makerere University, one of the best universities in Uganda and one of the best, I think, in Africa as well. Our challenge has always been if you want to go and get your transcript and documents. You go to room 1, they tell you go to room 3, reach room 3, they tell you go back to room 1 and pick forms, and then go to room 10, and then go to room 15 and room X. Your processes are boring you. And sometimes if you had an alternative, then you do not consume this service, because maybe a certain Richard is also offering a better service and his processes are shorter. When you are offering a service, make sure that the processes are so short. If you are selling to me an IT software, please, it should be user-friendly. It should be do it yourself, that I install it easily, and you tell me that click this and the program will install itself, like the hackers do. So you guys in IT and ITs, think of how hackers do it. Hackers, you click and say hi, and it has so virus they have installed themselves. So marketing of services is important, and we are talking about marketing of services. On your screen, I have put kind of, and it is not mine, we got it from wherever, but it shows you the summary of what I've been saying, that the 7 Ps are targeting a customer. But let me mention also, at the center of the 7 Ps is the company's strategy. The company's strategy, the company's business strategy. And inside that company's business strategy is the company's marketing strategy. And inside that company's marketing strategy is the company's export strategy, all facing a customer whom we in services normally call a client. And so when you are preparing to be competitive in the marketplace at the national level and the international level, you have to think of what I already said. Who are the people? How important are the people? Your customers, your employees, who must be very professional, because with the service organizations, when we get poor service, we blame it on the employees that have been giving us the service. And in most cases, we never see management, we see your employees. Talk about a restaurant or a bar. If you get a poor service, most likely the waiter or the waitress is the one who has made it a poor service. But sometimes it is the management that has made it a poor service because of the processes. Because of the processes. How do you design the service? I have talked about the promotion. I have talked about the product. I have talked about the price. And I said the price is important. Depends on how you want to price it. Do you want to price against the competitor? And because, for example, if Airtel and MTN are the key competitors, how do they price? Maybe the leading company puts its competitive price, and the follower also slightly reduces the price so that they can compete. Because believe you me, not all service companies or offer the same quality of service and competitiveness taken inside it. So you have to think how you place. Is it because there is too much demand? Sometimes when there is too much demand, people would say their price goes, everybody would buy it. Are you looking at it because it is cost? Are you looking at its competition? But sometimes we offer prices to, especially in service organizations, we offer prices because of the history we have with you. And the history we have with you, most cases, has to do with the relationship. And therefore, if a client has been with us for more years, sometimes we reduce the price, even on terms and conditions of the relationship, even on terms and conditions of payment. This is very important. The 7 Ps, you may, even during this training, you may look at only this one and only look at it, and you should continue to discuss it within your organizations, and we should continue to discuss it in the future and put in more examples and see what we do. And if you looked at this and understood it, then according to me, with my background in, again, marketing away from economics, then you have made money. So exporting services, how do you package your services? And I have already talked about packaging for your target market. Different packages, different places, different positionings. But how do you identify markets for your products? And this time I mean services. Do you have an export plan? For you to do all this, to do different packages, to do the 7 Ps and do it well, you need an export plan, a marketing plan, but part of the marketing plan will be a business plan, but part of the business plan will be a marketing plan, and part of the marketing plan will be an export marketing plan. And that should also explain how you finance your export transactions. What are your best methods of handling orders and shipments? I know for IT, sometimes shipments will be by attaching the software to an email and you make money. But different services, different service types are different ways of doing it. So marketing of services, buyers and user characteristics. This is important. You look at a service, education. So who is your target market and what are their characteristics? Dr. Meda, I am waving at you, but you can't see me because the screen is now covered with the PowerPoint. Last year, you were the gold winner for bringing in a lot of education services, for bringing in a lot of money, selling education as a service. And selling education as a service is not a simple thing. The characteristics that you have to consider of the market, of the buyers, of the people who will come to study from your institute. Language. What is the language of instruction? Very, very important. Language is important. So these students you are planning to attract, do they understand the language of instruction? How do they learn fast? These days, you have no choice, but you have to spend a lot of money, Dr. Mpezamhigo, to ensure that these facilities we are using now, you have them. A lot of blended learning will be important. And once you have understood that, then you can go in and make your strategies. And this appeals to all the other services. Positioning is very important. Again, it is related to, I already said, how do you position yourself? As a company, how do you want to position yourself to sell, to market services, which we have said they are intangible, there is inseparability aspects, they can't be, they are variable different times, they are perishable very fast, and there is the issue of standardization. How are you preparing yourself to market these packages. How do you position yourself? Different ways. I just put this on the screen. Many different ways depending on the product. Many different ways depending product. I mean product as a package of a service. I mean depending on the service. If we want to be lighter, depending on the service you are offering. How do you prepare yourself? I've just put that screen. You can look at it and see, and it will be distributed. But the aspect is that, for example, if you know that a lecturer who has been teaching from, I teach at Uganda Management Institute, and I would teach from 9 to 8. And sometimes I also teach on Sunday. So you can know that sometimes there is a challenge. Somebody who has been teaching from 9 to 8. There is the issue of that the service will vary. So what do you do to ensure that that service doesn't vary a lot? Yeah, you prepare slides, which are maybe at times you can have other staff, a group that looks at these slides and edit them so they are standard. What is different is the lecturer or the teacher who would be using them to teach at different times, but because they are standard, there is a chance that when there is a point he looks at it, you could explain it in the same way. About tourism, what do? You have this cottage, you have these waiters and waitresses, and you have this chef and other cooks. How do you ensure that they give the same service, even when they give different menus? Again, you need to standardize so that it's standardized kind of, and therefore you create a degree of uniformity. I don't want to go through the rationales of maybe I could pick one or two so that we look at it. Maybe you don't mind, and very fast. So if you are going to position yourself in education, for example, and training, and you talk of, do you have well-known academic institutions and training institutions? Do you have well-known graduates of these education institutions who can speak about you, who become your referrals in different countries? And the issue of if you have the capacity to deliver in different languages, that is also a plus. If it is architecture, construction, engineering is very important. You could also talk about, but also, like I said, for Dr. Mpezamigo, KIU in under education and training, you can position yourself as the winner, the gold winner of last year's best promoter of education, best exporter of education services. When you come to architecture, design, engineering, and construction, you talk about the different things. Also talk about, again, your importance, about how strong you are. Different examples on the screen. Health related to education, do you have well-known doctors and physicians? Do you have, are you known for specialty in different places? Dr. Omagino, who is the director of at Ministry of Health, responsible for cardiology and cardiovascular aspects, tells you that Uganda now operates, and it tells you, he says even they have operated on most important people in this country, top politicians and very important people, and they are alive and working. What he tells you, he says maybe we lack the financial support, but otherwise we are good. And I also have examples on the screen. Peru is a very small country down in Latin America. One of their hospitals is well known for oncology. Oncology is to do with cancer services. And therefore, because of this, people can be flown from here when you have a very difficult cancer situation, and you are flown to Peru, even when the language they speak is not English. And many other examples, ladies and gentlemen. Every service, there is what we call in academics, but in the actual world, you guys offering services, dimensions of service quality. what would you think are dimensions of service quality? Don't look at the other side of the screen. Look at the sides where there is reliability. If you offer a service and you are not reliable, people will run away, clients will run away. If it is not accessible in different ways, as you know what access means, people will run away. Responsiveness. Responsiveness. Sometimes you call some offices and they take 3 minutes before they can pick your phone. And some tell you, we'll keep waiting, they will be with you shortly, keep waiting, and you are losing money. Competence, the skills and knowledge. You say you are providing this service, do you have the competencies? Or you just want to milk money from the people? And sooner or later, people will know that you are milking them and you don't have the competencies, and they leave you. Communication. You have clients, internal and external clients over an organization. You must keep communicating. You must keep them updated. They must know what packages you have now. They must know what has changed. During the pandemic now, organizations, even education institutions, tourism has been affected more also. They have newer packages. They have reduced their prices, but are you communicating it? Is the language clear? They understand it so they can come. But also please understand customers. We have different needs. In education. There are children who need to be taught longer, but in the long run, they'll be successful. We have children who learn very fast. In hotels and other services, we have people who demand a lot. There are a lot of quarrelsome customers. There are some people you would want to call them nasty, but never call your client nasty because he gives you the money. Find a way of handling and giving a service to this person. Sometimes once you give them good services, they actually never go away and they bring you more customers. Be trustable, trustworthiness. If you don't believe that this company is honest about what they are telling you, if you don't believe this doctor is honest about what he's telling you, then why do you go back? Next day you'll be dead. And then you can't make the money. Security, how are you giving me my privacy? How are you ensuring that the service I'm getting sometimes unique to me, no one will know about it? Some people are important in organizations that if you discovered, for example, they have very serious terminal diseases, issues of cancer, issues of some head problems, they don't want you to leak this information because maybe they are the president of the company, maybe they are the chairman of the company, and the shares will go down if you leak this information. How is the bank protecting my money and not ensuring that no one knows that I am a billionaire? Sometimes, even when I've stolen this money from government. Yeah, and we say in English, that should die, yeah? Because we should be having more money doing service delivery. The issue of tangibility again, how do you make this service become tangible? Do you have promotional materials? How do you package your information? What do people see on the screen when you are advertising it and promoting it? What is it you show that is kind of physical? I use education. They give you a certificate after you have finished your course, because that is evidence. How would Dr. Mpezamigo explain somebody that you came here, studied, or you got your degree without a certificate? And that is the evidence that we can take home, and that is a dimension as well. Selecting export target markets, there are many factors, and we cannot discuss them even in a short time. But one of the things you should think about is there a market? Is it growing? Why would you be targeting a market that is not growing? Is your product unique? And if your product is unique, which is that segment of society, segment of the people, segment of the market that will want your products? But also, you may want to find out, are there historical links between your country and this country? For example, Uganda was colonized, no doubt about it, whether colonized or protected by the British, the UK, that small island. I don't know why they had got the power, but they got the power thanks to science and technology. Technology still remains important even in history, even during time of slave trade. So we speak English. The people in Rwanda speak French. Now they have converted also to English. The people in DR Congo speak French, and so some many other people in West Africa. One country speaks Portuguese in West Africa. So that historical link, you should use it to market, to promote your service to these countries, because then you can sell them software packages from IT. Then you can invite them as tourists. Then you can invite them to study from here, because then the language is important. What is the ease of access for your exporters? And I said direct flights and safe visa requirements. Then you may think tourism. I'm not talking about tourism. I am talking about even the other different ways. If you want to have, say, students coming from different countries to study from Uganda, how easily accessible is Uganda? Can they get direct flights? Can they get connecting flights? Do they? What are the visa requirements? Are you taking forever? Is an important aspect. Ability to pay, ability to pay, ability to pay, and other factors, of course. Again, related to honesty. Some countries are regarded, without being stereotyping, that some countries, there is no doubt. I also know some countries in Africa and other places. Because and also in other countries, people are not paying. For as people take Ugandan products and they don't pay our exporters. We have had to intervene and at a higher level and different level, and some have paid. So we should be thinking: do I have ability to pay? But are they willing to pay? But also think about exchange rates. What is the currency and convertibility? Is also an aspect of, but also currency stability. This country, if the currency is fluctuating every day, and I don't want to say it, this is Zoom and we are recording, but there are countries whose currency has been becoming worse and worse and worse. Let me talk something about modes of service delivery. When we talk of services and export of services, we also talk about modes of service delivery under the World Trade Organization now, which is the successor to the to GATT, the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs. We have what we call General Agreement on Trade in Services, which is called GATT. GATT shows the different modes of services, and this has been negotiated. This has been agreed by all the members of the World Trade Organization. And there are 4. I remember we had also another virtual meeting recently, and I think they were discussed either by Mrs. Stella Masiga, but we can look at them and they're on the screen. There is what we call cross-border supply, cross-border beings, and we're talking of human beings. One can deliver service to a customer in another country remotely, but via email, via telephone, and via other platforms. But also we have what we call mode 2, which is consumption abroad. A customer travels to a country in which the supplier is located in order to avail the service, tourism exports. We have mode 3, commercial presence. Firms supply services in another country through presence of an affiliate in that country. IMF Balance of Payments Manual Volume 6 edition does not consider commercial presence mode 3 as being an export, as in that case, the supplier and the consumer are in the same country. Yeah, that's what they think. I just was giving it to you as a footnote. Mode 4, IMF is not WTO. Mode 4, presence of natural persons. The supplier travels to a country in which the customer is located in order to supply the service. We have many examples, business consultancy. So a recap, we have 4 modes of service delivery that I'm looking at: cross-border supply, consumption abroad, commercial presence, and what we call presence of natural persons. Let me look at something else. What I'm looking at is, again, kind of promotion. If you are going to promote services and all their services, and there are different and there are many, which would be good for you to so that really because you are investing, marketing, it takes money. You are putting money in something, and when you reach there, you have not got a return. And these promotion activities include participation in trade fairs, in trade events. I look at some of the type of services, infrastructure, IT services, business services, professional services, and what these services call quality of life. Quality of life, many, you know, there are many. So they say for infrastructure, participation in trade events like trade fairs is good. For IT, it is good. For business services, good. For professional services, it is not good. For professional services, you have to make presentations to different potential clients. Quality of life is also good. You can be at a trade fair and display a good education institution, good health services, and others. Sector-specific missions. Sector-specific missions are important for all the types of services I'm looking at here. Then there is what we call trade missions. Trade missions across sectors, some others. Also are important. Trade missions, because if you tailor them very well, ahead of time you have invited the other side who will come and attend, it is important. There is what we call partnering events, are also very important. Partnering event, you are partnering with the buyers from that side. You, the sellers, are partnering with the buyers, and it is a joint activity, and you do promotion, and it is good. Media tours, yeah, are also good sometimes. The last one is networking with investors is also good. So many ways of trade promotion activities that you can be involved in and make sure that it makes you gain money, it makes you get clients. You shouldn't attend a trade fair. At the end of 5 days, you have not even got some 10 inquiries. You have wasted money. Let me talk about efforts of REPB to promote services. Currently, REPB has recruited 3 staff for promoting services. But in 2021, 2022, we are asking government to recruit more. We are preparing a service exports handbook, and we are undertaking export readiness assessment. Part of this virtual meeting is part of it. But some of you, my staff, have already come to your companies, and you have had discussions. But also, we have an online tool, export readiness assessment tool, which you can fill, and then we can look at it, and we decide whether it is good to begin to talk to you and support you so that you go to the next level. Our purpose is that you should export and make money for yourself, make money for this country, and we can get our salaries. We are undertaking capacity building and training on specialized aspects, but also we are undertaking customized advisory services. Apparently, of course, we are doing it virtually and online, but also we have one head office in Kampala. But in the current 2020-25 strategic plan under NDP3, we plan to have another 12 offices. We will have 12 offices because I am having discussions with the government, finance, and our Ministry of Trade, and our Minister, Honorable Mayor Shambade, to ensure that this happens, because, I mean, UNBS is in different places. UIN, again, is going back to different places. URSB is in different places. Other government agencies are in different places. So we need to reach out. We need to go to different places, and we advise our people. Participations in exhibitions and trade shows, we have taken some of you already to participate in exhibitions. We have been partners with you to attend international conventions. and bilateral meetings, but also investor discussions. But we are closely working with you guys, your associations. We are also working with development partners. And like I said during my introduction, ITC is here, International Trade Center. We are lobbying Parliament. We are lobbying Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. As a matter of fact, we had even presentations 2 days before today with finance, and they are willing to support us. Please remember, the president has said he wants import replacement, import substitution, and export promotion. NDP3 is saying export promotion is a development strategy. Export promotion is a development strategy. You guys in the private sector should help us take out this message. And when you talk to your members of parliament, when you talk to ministers, when you talk to permanent secretaries in other different places, tell them that the government has said export promotion is a strategy and you guys want to export. Can they support you? Can they also support Export Promotion Board to undertake market studies and market development? Thank you very much. It was my pleasure to present this. I'm stopping sharing now.
Thank you very much, Edie. We greatly appreciate your detailed presentation, and I hope you have noted key things. One of the things that I noted is the 7 Ps for services. I think this is very key as you develop your strategies. The other thing that I've noted is the modes. When you're organizing yourselves to export, please look into the modes. And as an Export Promotion Board, we would like to encourage you to bring more of your companies on board with similar services. We are here to serve you, and we are looking forward to working with you to grow service of exports. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like now to go straight to our next presenter without wasting time. Mr. Richard Okuti is our coordinator for an NTF4. Has done a lot with us for the IT and IT-enabled services. And Richard will be speaking to us today about the capacity and capability to produce for the dynamic buyers in the service market. So Richard, you're welcome. Please do your presentation and you can start. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Brenda. I'm really excited to be part of this team, and international trade, especially promotion of exports, really excites me. I believe it's something that can build us as a community and even grow the respect for us as an African nation when we're able to contribute towards global development in a proactive manner, and also make sure that we are no longer dependent on other communities for our existence. So exports is really in the core of humanizing us, and also, you know, increasing the understanding of us as a people, as Africans, and as Ugandans. So before I go into my presentation, I want to say that I prepared this presentation mostly for service exporters and also those who have not yet had a lot of experience in this area of business. Most of the presentation is based on my practical experience and a bit of the ITC methodology. I have practically involved myself in export of goods such as oilseed, such as grain, and such as soybean, and also in services such as tourism to Switzerland, and France, such as website solutions to Denmark, and such as network solutions to Kenya, and education services to Tanzania. So a lot of it is really tending towards the process. And I'm happy that the ED of Uganda Export Promotions Board has already talked a lot on the prerequisites. And so I will not dwell too much into that. I know that he will share a lot of that knowledge from some of the publications he has made as well. And I'll talk more towards the practical processes involved. So I'll go now to share my screen so that we can proceed with my presentation. And I hope you can all see it. It's very colorful. I have tried to avoid all political colors due to the current climate. So yeah, so that is just a welcome remark on the topic of the day. And my name again, of course, once again is Richard Okuti. And as Brenda said, I'm the National Coordinator for the NTF4 project in Uganda. Earlier in the day, I also founded a company called Asili Fortune, which is into e-commerce and export development. Some years back, I also participated in founding Africa Sierra, which is a tourism business. And these businesses are still running and growing, although I have taken up most of my time to work in developing other SMEs. Briefly about my background, which I alluded to earlier, is that I have experience in agribusiness, in IT and tourism. I have been an entrepreneur, failed many times as well, and succeeded a few times. And I have worked in introducing technology to sectors and places where information technology has not been used before. I'm a passionate salesman and I train people on sales. And I now consider myself an expert on export development. That will be, of course, something to see over the years to come. So I would like to talk first about the opportunities, just to put us in the framework of what international trade looks like, and then the process of accessing these opportunities. And again, Ellie's presentation was really good to set the stage for this. So you can see, I brought products just for show, just to show you that, of course, there's a lot of export going on the product side. You can see coffee, tea, spices, fish, dairy, cocoa, leaves, trees, wood, and all that, which most of you are not involved in. But just to show you that there's a lot of exports going on beyond services. But when we zero down on services, you look at some of the key ones I identified, the opportunities we have as a country, is in tourism, which was one of the bigger, single export earners. I don't know what the statistics are this year, but tourism was on top. And those two pictures you see there, elephants from Maction Falls National Park that I took myself. These are women exhibiting their cultural, items. Again, it's what I took myself. You look at education, we have every beginning of term, you see that the airport and the buses are full of traffic coming into Uganda to study. And this, of course, is a service that we've been offering, especially to the region. You'll see that universities like Nkozi have a lot of students from Burundi and Rwanda and Uganda, of course, but right now we're looking at the export opportunity. We see universities like the one of my colleague who was with us online here, having students traveling in from Kenya and so forth. We also export a lot of professional services to the region, including accounts, legal, engineering, and HR services. Of course, we also export a lot of unprofessional services, maybe semi-professional or semi-skilled, I don't know. I'm not very excited about that part because I think it's a bit tough one for Ugandans. Coming to where we focus a lot today on our opportunities, that's information technology products and information technology services. The opportunity here is very, very big, and already some of you are exploring it. We also have information technology enabled services, which many of you are already exploring. So that really shows you that there is a lot of potential out there that we are all exploring. And for those of you who have not yet explored, this is just to bring to your light that we have indeed a lot of opportunities to explore. And if we harness them well, Uganda can be a very wealthy country in just a few years. Again, of course, still justifying, you can see key markets for Ugandan products and services. The statistics on products are really well established and quite a lot. And I captured some of these from ugandaexports.com. You can see Kenya is leading, United Arab Emirates happens to be there, Sudan, Rwanda, and Democratic Republic of Congo. Many of them, you see, there's also proximity to Uganda. And then the others, which are beyond Africa, of course, United Arab Emirates is outside Africa, but we need to find out why it's interesting for products. And then we have, of course, Italy, Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, Tanzania, Hong Kong, and United States. And I wondered why UK was not on this list, but that is products. That is not really our core interest today. We identified some markets where Ugandan SMEs tend to export more easily. That was the East African countries, especially Kenya and Rwanda. And of course, the details of that we need to investigate. But really, it was easier for our SMEs to go to these countries in the East African region. We have already SMEs exploring the Malawi market. We need to understand from those that are already exploring Malawi, what is interesting in Malawi for us to leverage on. We have Zambia, and we need to understand. Personally, I was in Zambia, and I think the culture in Zambia is not so different from Uganda. In fact, they have a language that sounds like Luganda in Lusaka. I wondered what language that was, but I think maybe that's one of the things that makes it easy. But we also have the Netherlands that we've had a long relationship with that we export to, and Germany, Switzerland, UK, USA, and Canada. And these markets where we're already exporting are actually buying data services from us, knowledge services like accounts, USA and Canada, for instance, are buying bookkeeping services from us. They're buying medical information system services from us. So it's not far-fetched. Some countries in Africa and the Middle East are buying ERP solutions from us, and their companies to exemplify this. Some of them may be here, like Clinic Master, like Data Care, like New Earth. These companies are actually already engaging in these markets where we have opportunities. So what do we need to do to leverage on these opportunities that we have all over the world? Of course, I want to start by saying that first of all, we need to understand that we all have to move collectively. Government, business support organizations, and SMEs. So to connect, compete, and change, the whole country must move together. That's why we must have a country-level strategy. We must have a country-level value proposition. And then we can make our own export strategies and check our export capacity, our compliance, service level agreements that we can engage in, standards, and then make actions that can take us into these markets. And at country level, you can see that this was a value proposition that we developed for Europe, but it works for Africa as well. You see that as a country, now we start preparing to sell ourselves, of course. And one of the things we should do as a country is to recognize what are our strong points, what are our selling points. And as the ED of the Export Board mentioned, language, we have a very, very strong command of English. And many times this is taken lightly, but it serves to really position us very well in other countries that speak English. So we also have good connection in terms of time zone, you know, the span of time difference between us and Europe and the Arab countries is not so large. And we, because of the relationship we've had with UK and Europe over the years, have some kind of cultural, you know, similarities. These are strong points that we can bring out at country level. We can also say it's relatively safer to do business with Uganda. You know, after all the political turmoil we had in the past, I think right now we can safely say that Uganda is quite stable. And we have a very, very good government support. I want to emphasize this, that actually there's a lot of government initiatives that we can benefit from. And many times because of working in silos, we do not take advantage of these initiatives. So we need to associate more so that we can take advantage of government support. Because government cannot talk to each of us independently, but if we are associating very well, and I commend ATIS, the Alliance for Trade in Information Technology and Services, for initiating associations with the Uganda Export Promotions Board, the Private Sector Foundation of Uganda, NITA, and others. Because then you can speak and say, okay, this is the support you're giving us, but it's not good enough. Could you tweak it and make it more effective in this way? And you know, when you're associating, that voice is very strong. But you can see that government has already set up tech hubs for new IT and BPO businesses. We know that in Nakawa, one will be launched towards the end of this year at UICT. How do we take advantage of that to improve on our production capacity or lower our cost of production? We have one coming up in Entebbe. How do we participate in making that IT park relevant to us as businesses that are staging ourselves for export? There are a lot of incentives, both in private sector foundation and government entities like the ICT ministry. Some people have complained that these initiatives are not favoring them, but why are these initiatives not favoring us? It comes back to us not associating and organizing ourselves well to be able to tell government that this is how we want you to support us as a private sector, so that we can actually have more effective and efficient businesses. We have put IP and cyber laws in place, and this really protects our businesses. And we have at least the backbone fiber, you know, running in most of the urban centers of the country. Power supply has also improved. So what is it that we're not doing that well? We need to keep asking ourselves that question, because irrespective of the politics and the lamentations, I think government has done something. We also are very proud of a very young population, talented young people, very entrepreneurial young people. Why do they fail early? Many of them. We need to understand how to stop them from failing so that they can become viable businesses with export potential. Yeah. And we graduate so many people. And however, I've talked about a lot of things, but our value proposition is to say in a brief that we speak very good English, we are very innovative, and it's a safe country to do business with. So we want to motivate other countries to you know, do business with us. Going a bit into the process, definitely as a business, it's so unfortunate that a lot of us who went to school, including Makerere University, that is one of the most praised universities in Africa, start businesses and we go back to doing business as usual. What I mean is that we start a business and then we don't plan. What I mean is someone says, okay, I'm going into farming, and they don't plan. They go and farm like someone else who never really had a chance to get enlightened. I see a lot of our engineers coming out of, IT colleges, IT universities, and then they just jump in and start doing business. It doesn't work like that. In today's very competitive world, you have to plan. And so this part, the export marketing strategy, assumes that you have already done your business planning. However, if you've not done it, try your best to identify your export products and define them very clearly. There are tools like the business model canvas that you can use to understand who is the customer you want, what is their problem, what are the niceties about your product or service that will help them solve their problem, and then what benefits will they gain? Will they become more efficient? Will their cost of operation reduce? Will they become more profitable? What eventually will change in your customer's life that warrants your existence? So use these models. These models are available. They have been researched. And some people who were good enough to study very hard and get permanent brain damage, they call it, can support with these kind of models. Identify your market through very accurate market intelligence. A lot of us, and I sit with very young people sometimes, I look at them, they're so excited about the technology, and then you ask them, so who is going to buy? And they have no idea. But they keep going back. So, but this app is so nice, it looks really nice. Can you see how it can do this, it can do that? Then you say, okay, yes, I really like what it can do, but who is buying? And then, you're not thinking. So we need to develop a habit of doing market intelligence so that we develop solutions, not products that don't have. And remember, some of these tools, I know I'm talking to an educated audience, so I don't have to go into details of these things, but things like the political, economic, social, technological, and these kind of environments, what are your strengths and weaknesses? These are always good to go back to and review. I think we should never get tired of these things, because to do business is not rocket science, but you still have to do these things. And then, of course, you'll be able to structure your company profile and optimize for your export potential. So that shout out there is just to remind you, who is your customer and what is your value proposition? What are you putting on the table? Yeah, don't go there if you don't know, because you meet a lot of roadblocks. Of course, in the process, I went further and talked about, analyzing after you've identified your market, you finalized your intelligence, to avoid being all over the place, you need to decide which market niche are you going for, or which segments are you taking. And of course, if your service is a mass market service, then so be it. But you have to be clear so that you actually understand how you will deal with it. Many of us go to this section that we have referred to as the TAM, that is the total addressable market. Some may try to go into the serviceable available market, but mostly advise people to stay in this red circle so that you focus on what works best for you. Excuse me a bit. Yeah, so you analyze this market, understand the size, the growth potential, how long it will last, so that you go into the market knowing what kind of investment to put in. And of course, you need to determine your threats and opportunities as well, and try to mitigate them. Very importantly, you have to make strategic decisions when you're going beyond your country. You have to decide if you are really export ready, for the markets that you have analyzed. Uganda Export Promotions Board has developed a readiness test tool. I think at a certain point they'll share it, but take this test, find out what is wrong and what is right. There are famous stories of people just hearing that China is buying SIM, then they go and start collecting SIM, and then eventually they're told, oh, China stopped buying, now it's India buying, and then they try to sell to India, and then they're stuck with a lot of SIM in the warehouse. This also happens to us in the IT sector. Just assuming that you're going to develop a product or you're going to develop a service, invest a lot of your skills into developing, systems and put everything in place, only to realize that, you have no one to buy. So do this readiness test, check your internal capacity and determine your extra capacity needs. And of course, if you have extra capacity needs, then you need to get advice. Check for required standards and laws and look out for opportunities to link with people who can take you up. So that's important. So after you've done all this, you have to come back and look at your internal situation. And first and foremost, what is your production capacity? I adopted this presentation for services, but I see it also talks about raw materials. But in terms of services, we can also talk about, do you have the relevant ingredients to ensure that you are able to deliver? For instance, do you have enough programmers to deliver a certain ERP in a customized manner to the expectations of the client in time? So these are things you need to check. You need to ensure that you have capacity to sustain the service you are offering. If you offer it today, will you be around tomorrow to offer it? And will you be around next year? Or do you have a mechanism to service whatever you have delivered? If you've installed an ERP solution or a medical information management system for someone in Malawi, how will you sustain it? If there's a problem, if the system crashes, all these things, you need to look into them. Do you have well-trained staff to manage export standard requirements? Export standard requirements are usually very rigid because you're talking about dealing with countries, some of them are highly developed and have a certain standard expectation of you. And so if you cannot meet their minimum criteria, then you may not be able to deliver in that market, but you'll also spoil for others who may have been able to deliver in that market. So make sure to check your standards, and again, working with the country level support systems to ensure that it is a good time for you to go beyond your boundaries or your borders. Look at your equipment, warehousing. Again, this was mostly for products and logistics and so forth. So I'll let that pass. In terms of still checking yourself internally, are you compliant? Are you registered, for instance, with the Uganda Registration Services Bureau? Do you pay your taxes? Do your members, do your employees pay NSSF and so forth? It is extremely absurd if you went to Dubai and you started talking about your business and you said you're from Uganda and you have nothing to show that you're registered or legally compliant in Uganda. Then you could be from anywhere else. You could be an imposter. So again, this is basic stuff. Most of you have done all this. Financial compliance, do you do periodic audits? Is it easy to tell if your business is healthy or not? Because how do you convince someone to do business with you when you cannot tell whether you're a healthy business or not? Local registrations and certifications, very important. Register with UEPB. Get certified by NITA. These are very important things, especially if you're dealing with IT and IT-enabled services. Why? I'll give you an example. Recently, I cannot name specific organizations, but I know that organizations have run to UEPB for arbitration, for help, or to NITA, or to any of our government entities. But how do you run there if you had ignored them in the first place? You know? So sometimes even just getting known is okay. I know that we have a lot of our governments sometimes have weaknesses that are really glaring, but get known, it's important, especially if you're going to step out of your home. And associate, join ETIS, join the ICT Association of Uganda, join the education team, join the tourism group, and so forth, so that you are known. So are you in position to guarantee certain minimum, standards? Because you'll be asked to, guarantee a certain service level. And so you should be prepared to have a service level agreement, and communication, you should have a communication policy so that you manage expectations of your customers. These are really what normally you have in a service level agreement. The agreement, what it's all about, the stakeholders, the time you've agreed to work together, and who takes how much time, the scope, and how you manage this general relationship. So these are basics. Again, it's not rocket science, but normally we ignore them. Do we have standards? What is your work ethic? What's your methodology? Is it documented? If a buyer in a foreign market asks you, how do you do your work? How will you show them? Do you subscribe to any international standards? One of them that quickly came to my mind was ISO, quality management systems for IT people, information security, and so forth. What is your corporate social responsibility policy? This is becoming very, very key in Europe. In Uganda, you'll ask, oh, so what is CSR? Does it really matter? But you go to Europe, it really matters. How do you treat your employees? How do you relate to the community around your business? Your stakeholders, your customers, your suppliers, etc. So these things come into play and become more important as you expose yourself to a global market. Continuous research and development, how do you continuously lower your costs, and ensure that you are, competitive. How do you arbitrate, negotiate settlements, and who is your anchor organization? So again, I brought back these questions. Do you associate? Is government, are you known in government circles? Like it or not, government represents us. And so you have to, and local contacts in the export countries that you select. That's why, again, I tell you, do not go to every country. Go to those that you can go to, and make sure you have some local contacts there that can give a face to your business. So going forward, I ran over these things because the earlier presentation had a lot of information on this, and I hope I haven't been too fast. But after you've done all these internal checks, then you can now finalize with defining your market entry strategy, selecting your marketing instruments. Are you going to do online advertising? Is your website going to be a key tool for accessing those markets? Are you going to target B2B events, social media, and direct selling? And then you can plan your actions and continuously get advice, check for required standards and laws, look out for linkage opportunities. Laws and standards are very important also when it comes to arbitration and negotiation. Which country's laws will you use? Will they be Uganda's laws? Are those laws written in your agreements that you're going to use in case you reach that point where you need to arbitrate, and so forth? So again, of course, your sales and marketing plan then drives you, and you move forward. And remember that at a high level, the country is also marketing you. The association is also marketing you. And I put this sales cycle there because I noticed that Uganda, and maybe majority of Ugandans I interact with, really underestimate the value of professional sales. Selling as a profession cannot be underestimated in this day and age when it's a very, very highly competitive global village. So I encourage all of you to continue reviewing and reminding yourselves of what it requires to initiate contacts, to qualify potential customers, to engage with them, to negotiate with them, and build lasting relationships. These are some of the things that I wanted to outline for you and share with you today. I'm sure those of you who have a lot of experience are reminded of these things, and those of you who do not have seen some insights into exporting, and I wish to stop there. Again, I say that international trade will lead you to understanding, would lead us to a better understanding of each other as human beings, mutual respect for each other, and fulfillment of our potential as human beings. So thank you for listening, and let's continue to promote our country.
Richard, thank you. Thank you so much. You'll all agree with me that he has given us a very, very comprehensive presentation. And we have learned a lot, Richard. Just to summarize just a bit of what he said, one key thing I noted is that, one, we need to move together, and he's encouraging us to associate, but also planning. Planning is very key for any business, to be professional and to actually deliver what your client needs. Then he highlighted in very specific terms how you ensure that your capacity is in place, your compliance. Now, this compliance issue is something that is pertinent to Export Promotion Board because it speaks a lot to the quality of what you have, ensuring that you have agreements. We are having a number of issues that we have to resolve, that we have to mediate, because people don't do agreements. The ED mentioned something about that. Work standards. Now you need to be professional and ensure that you actually meet certain international standards. Remember, you're not dealing with Uganda, you're dealing with the world, you're dealing with buyers out there. So standards are key to whatever product or service you are supplying. And finally, Richard also mentioned the sales cycle. Now, this really takes you through step by step as a professional provider of services, what you need to do. Richard, we really appreciate. We shall share these presentations at the end of the training, and we ask that you contact us or contact Richard in case of any further details about what he has shared today. So ladies and gentlemen, I would also like to request that for those posting questions, I can see a number of questions have come in. Kindly post in the Q&A so that it doesn't get lost in the chats. Please post in the Q&A so we can quickly access when the time comes. We shall now have our next presenter. We have two presentations to go. We have replaced the presentation which we should have done with the Ministry of Trade by someone else who would have presented tomorrow. So we'll have someone coming in to give us a presentation on organization capabilities. We should have presented tomorrow. That will tie in well with what Richard has talked about. But now I would like to invite our next presenter. His name is Ronald Mukasa. He'll give us more details about what he does. He is a business trainer with Enterprise Uganda. Ronald, is going to speak to us about preparing for funding. This is financing opportunities, internal and external requirements for export of services. Many of you are struggling in this area, and we have Ronald to bring this to take us through this. Ronald, you're welcome. You please introduce yourself and proceed with your presentation. Ronald, you're now on. I think you can proceed.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity, the team at UEPB, for the opportunity you have given me to share with the team today. I was keenly following the session before, and I guess as we all think about export opportunities, one of the things which is inevitable is to look at this question of finance, which I've called the lifeblood of business here. Finance is one of those topics which, irrespective of the context in which you are discussing it, it's important to appreciate why many businesses actually struggle in the area of finance, in the area of making things work in this space. Any business which is looking to export, usually there are new financing considerations which you inevitably have to make, partly because of the fact that it's not business as usual. I mean, even things as simple as the currency in which you are trading. If you are going to trade in dollars and you've been used to managing shillings, there is a new foreign exchange risk which you have to face, and you need to make sure you balance that out. Where you look for financing may have to change when you think about you as an exporter. Is it better to look at local financing, or is it better to consider some international options which are on the table? So all these are fundamental questions as you think about finance. However, today I'm going to concentrate quite a bit on what you'd call the internal factors of finance. Money will always chase a business which is booming. Money will chase a business which is succeeding. There's fundamentally no absence of capital. It is whether the business is ready for that capital and fully prepared for that capital, and has structures in place which can allow that capital to be gotten. So I'm going to pay quite a bit of attention to what you'd call the internal factors when you are preparing for funding or financing opportunities. What should you be able to do as a business as you prepare for this finance? And I hope that through our conversation, we can be able to see a couple of places where we can be able to make sustainable changes which can allow for our businesses to access the export markets. I think to start us off, I will make mention of the fact that many businesses which are going into export, some will grow organically from a small local business to possibly a regional business, and then they can get into the export market. So there's that organic growth. There's some businesses which are born to export. They're really born in the opportunity of export. I think when you think about the opportunities which have been presented by the Free Zones Authority, it is inevitable for you to notice that some people may start their businesses with one objective, to export, and this may change the way you look at financing. However, irrespective of which of the two you are, finance, I think the fundamental points about finance are largely the same. And where you want to look for your money, those are largely the same. And I'm going to just talk a bit on those. So to start us off, I've argued that finance is the lifeblood of any business. You need to be very financially disciplined when it comes to thinking about export. One of the things which you have to notice is that the easiest kind of indiscipline is that with money. People are even more disciplined with their customers than they are with the money which the customers give them. So it's quite an easy place being disciplined. And one of the things which as a business owner you need to start off with is to ensure that you are financially disciplined. It takes when you think about things like record keeping, when you think about things like making sure that you have a financial audit, all these are tests of your financial discipline. That's what they're about. That is what we are trying to actually test whether you have achieved, whether you are a financially disciplined person. And there are three traps which we should think about at this point. The first trap is self-gratification. Self-gratification is you getting into a sense where you think that you have done everything possible. And many local businesses have suffered from that. They find themselves where we are congratulating them constantly about their achievements. We keep telling them that you have done everything that is possible. You are the biggest in Uganda. Now, you notice that you could be one of the biggest manufacturers of steel products in Uganda, and you get one order from Congo and it can't even be met by your current production. So you need to appreciate that one of the enemies who you are fighting is this enemy of self-gratification, this enemy of you congratulating yourself for having achieved what at a global scale may look like modest achievement. So you need to watch out for this trap, because it's a trap which takes many, where you find that businesses haven't accessed the export market, not so much because they can't, but because they don't want to stretch themselves out. What they are doing is constantly reminding themselves of their victories and settling for less, yet they could have more. The second thing is separating business and personal finances. Usually one of the biggest threats to your business and where financial discipline can prove a bit of a problem is the fact that many times you find that we haven't separated ourselves from our businesses. Some people are running what would relatively seem like big businesses, but they still can be able to send someone to the cashier and say, give that one 1 million. And the cashier doesn't know where that money is going. They know where that money is being given. But because the person is the owner of the business, they have a right to do that. Now, that is where we have a problem. How do you separate your personal business from your business finances, your personal finances from your business finances? How do you separate the two? It's absolutely important that that is being done. Last one is debt. Many times, whenever we're going into such ventures, debt is one of the options which we consider. I'll talk about it a bit more in a moment. However, one of the things which I wanted to make clear here is that a loan is a double-edged sword. It can go either way. It can go either way. And we have seen many businesses which have suffered because of being overexposed in debt and not being well hedged from the risks which they are taking on. So this is also something which is of great importance. So the point which I want to make here is that a financially literate person uses multiple sources of capital concurrently and at a reduced cost of capital. So you need to ensure that when you think about financing and capital, you're using multiple sources of financing, multiple sources of capital. It is important that this is happening. Why? Because many a time, if you are not using these multiple sources of financing, chances are high that you may fall and have the risk of some which are one over the other. I mean, if you take on too much debt and you're not building on your personal equity, chances are high that in cases, I mean, like the year which we have had, where we have had COVID-19, those people who are heavily exposed in debt have really suffered during this year. And it's not something which was planned, but that's why you may want to hedge a bit of the risk so that you are not overexposed. Now let's move. Let me touch here of signs of what I would call financial illiteracy as you think about your personal finances. One of the first signs is making ambitious plans which are possibly not achievable. One of the things which we observe is that every time someone makes a cash flow for a banker, for example, that cash flow shows that this person will pay. Yet we know that many fail to pay. So at the planning stage, make sure that you are not painting a very rosy picture, which may fool you into believing that things will happen. You get a deal, they tell you the items which are needed in Botswana, and you say this is a big opportunity. I'm going to load 10 trucks of beans for Botswana every week. Now, you may make it seem like, first of all, the people in Botswana will pay in a short period of time, so that as soon as the trucks arrive, according to your plan, it shows that they pay within 2 days. But we all know that that may not be possible. The trucks may arrive in Botswana for the first week, and they take 4 months to pay. And when they take 4 months to pay, the question which you have to ask, how will you finance the 10 trucks of the next week and the subsequent week? How are you going to finance them? Those are questions which you need to ask. So don't get lost in making what you'd call an over-ambitious plan. This over-ambitious plan may paint a rosy picture, but this rosy picture may be leading you to crash. Why? Because the things which you have put in your plan are actually not possible. So when negotiating for a loan, most people are very optimistic. They say these things will work out, and they throw all pessimism out of the window. This is true when you think about financing for export opportunities. Don't get lost in this over-optimism. Make sure that you understand which trends have happened. I think a while back, you remember when there was a vanilla shortage on the world market because of weather conditions in some of the high producing areas. And the kilo of vanilla shot through the roof. However, you may want to say, how long will they take for the other places where they're already established? How long will it take for them to reset? And when they reset, will I be able to ensure that I'll continuously earn given the investment I have made? So this is an export opportunity, but this export opportunity was possibly driven by a catastrophe in another country. And one thing which we know is that time will come and this has been reset. So if it gets reset, how have you planned for the long-term long-term business viability? And that will tie into the kind of financing which you need for that. We also see that many businesses complain of being rejected by the bank, yet the businesses that have been accepted are overwhelmed by opportunities. One of the things banks do is, if you are a successful business owner, they will keep offering you credit. They'll say, you know what, you move from ABSA, you come to DFCU, I'll give you less by 2%. Why is it that banks are wooing the same person? Sometimes wooing him to a point of him losing focus of his business and possibly making some wrong financial decisions. The point is that nothing excites a bank than a business person, a business owner who knows what they're doing, who has good records. There's nothing which excites the financiers than that person. So you need to ask yourself, if I am being rejected, what feedback am I getting? If I am looking for venture capital, I have pitched my idea, but no one has accepted to support me. What exactly has caused this? Why has no one accepted to support me? It may be direct feedback to you that there are things which you are not doing right. Yeah. So you need to ask yourself, the kind of financing which I'm looking for, why are people rejecting me? What things do I need to work on internally? And I will talk about these in a moment. The other point which I wanted to make here is that many businesses will try to diversify too fast before they have done enough work to have deep enough roots in the thing which they know how to do. And this is also such a big problem. You find that businesses are diversifying and they're moving into other spaces, but they're moving into other spaces without kind of securing the business which they have. And this is something which you need to consider when you are planning for export. You need to ask yourself, am I pulling money out of the cash cow to finance this new opportunity? And what is the risk of me killing the cash cow as a result of this new opportunity? Because it's possible. You may kill the business, the local business, as you think about looking at the export opportunity. So if you think about financing, you should know that that's a risk. You may pull money out of this business and inevitably cause it to collapse, yet it wouldn't have collapsed if you had planned it a bit better. And then there is also the thing about financing is that you have to display that you are graduating. You need to move from a circle to a microfinance, to a bank, to a venture capitalist, to an equity partner. This process of you growing out of your current state is of absolute importance. And if you're not growing out of your current state, it's direct feedback that it's direct feedback that there is something wrong. There is something which is not adding up. So you need to ask yourself, why is it that when I think about financing my businesses, I am actually rotating around the same financing partners? I would be very worried if you're planning for an export opportunity and you're going to finance it with a money lender. Why? Why are you financing it with a money lender? Why aren't banks trusting you enough to say we want to go with you into the foreign market? Because they know they will benefit. The question is why? And one of the things which is of absolute importance is to ensure that that question keeps at the back of our minds. Are we graduating or are we stagnant? Now, when we think about the places where you can be able to find financing within the business, I would want to start by talking about what causes erosion of capital within the business. Why is it that your business wants to go into export, but it is struggling to find even cash flows within the business? Why? And there are a couple of points here which I want to run through. The first one is uncollectible credit sales. It means you have sold items on credit, but you have not collected the money. This here is a big problem. Because many times you may end up going to a financial institution, yet you have a lot of money in your data book. There are so many people who have your money and you haven't collected it. So you need to be a person who collects to ensure that actually you are getting all the money that you need before you look out for external financing opportunities. Expanding or diversifying faster than you can afford. This is another big one. Many times when you are succeeding, one of the problems which we have is that success begets success. So you have gotten an opportunity in Dubai and they have told you that there is an opportunity to export cow skins. But when you are there, you notice that Dubai wants actually so many things. Not just cow skins, they want goats, Not just goats, they want vegetables. Not just vegetables, they also may make use of our honey. Now, the trouble which you have is that with this multiplicity of opportunities, you find yourself in a situation where you want to do it all at the same time. Many times exposing your personal resources because you may take credit against them, or even more important than just exposing your personal exposing your personal challenges. You find that you are in a situation where you have started doing things which you don't have core competence in. It means that you have taken money out of your cash cow, which may have been the hide schemes, and now you are trying to do way too much. And you can get indebted, and many times your business may not work as efficiently because there are things which you don't fully understand. So that's important. Make sure that if diversifying, it's done in a methodical and right way. Poor management of stock, this is a big one. You find that a lot of pilferage is happening with your stock going out because of theft, because of just not managing stock well. Spending business funds on personal matters, this is another big one. Some of us, when we get that opportunity to export, we find ourselves with feeling like this is a perfect time to complete your house or to buy another house. And you will tell yourself all kinds of stories. You got credit, you wanted to use it for export, but you say, but I've driven this car for the last 8 years. Why am I suffering? Let me pick myself a small, lovely car with the first 120 million. Now, what you have essentially done is that you have spent business funds on personal money. Then there is inefficient management of production and overhead expenses. This is something which is key. And one of the things which we have is many of us don't want to use professionals. And in as much as professionals may appear expensive, they are cheaper in the long run because they can help you manage the cost of production and overhead expenses. Then we have poor pricing of services. And this is a big one. Sometimes you get an opportunity and you haven't thought through it completely. You haven't thought about the fact that you're going to have to transport this item, that there are some taxes and tariffs which you're going to have to pay, that even after paying those taxes and tariffs, the items are going to spend some time in a bonded warehouse before they finally reach the customer. But the point which is being made here is that you need to make sure you are priced right so that all these items which I have spoken of have actually been included in the price of the services or the product. So where can we find business finance? There are a couple of ideas which I am going to throw out here, and then we can possibly look at just getting into a discussion. The first idea I'm going to throw out is that the cheapest place to find capital is your own equity. It means that all businesses should be accumulating their equity by way of possibly saving and putting aside a bit of the money for reinvestment. Now, this source is often ignored. Many people run very successful businesses, but they starve them of cash because every year the money which it brings is pulled out and used for other responsibilities. So it's important that you ask yourself, where is my equity? Where is my own capital? And that ties into reinvestment profits. What do we mean by reinvestment profits? Reinvested profits, rather. Here we are saying that you should make sure every year a part of the profit which you have made is actually used to be reinvested in the business. Then there are grants. There are a number of opportunities which have been presented to you as business people through this segment. There was mention of places like PSFU, other places which UEPB, other places which offer incentives to the business owners. However, you need to remember that when you accept a grant, it is not free. It may not have interest on it, but there are requirements that the person who has given you the grant has. Some of them may be as simple as reporting requirements. Some of them may be more complex by ensuring that you are following certain regulations. Yes, government may give you a grant to export, but if it gives you their money, they will need accountability from you. They will need accountability from other partners. So you need to ask yourself, as you get a grant, do I have the internal capacities to ensure that these things which are required of me, I can be able to do? You could accept the money and then lose a good friend in that grant partner because you did not meet the criteria which they gave you. Are we there? Now, we also need to look at things like supplier's credit. This is another big one. Sometimes you can ask your suppliers to advance you items until such a time as you are able to pay. So you don't have to pay cash, but you pay when you get the customer's money. This is also true in the export market. But a lot of trust has to be built for this to actually be able to work. And the same is true with be it their services, be it their products. The supplier can be able to advance you, and you are able to run your business. The other one is pre-finance services. It means getting an advance from your customers. Sometimes you may want to negotiate in an advance, at least 20%. That gives a bit of cash flow to be able to start the work. Now, when you think about pre-finance services, this is the highest level of trust, where someone gives you money before you have delivered. Remember that a lot of the trouble which we have in the export market is a trust question. Can I be trusted? But I think that's where we can be able to see more support, like abilities to protect people's initial investments through things like escrow accounts. Those are things that I think we can be able to strengthen. But in principle, that is one of the sources of business financing and the opportunities of business financing you could look at. Then there is disposal of underutilized or non-essential fixed assets. Now, this can be able to release a bit of money for you. Some of us, the business has a piece of land, and you don't know exactly why you have that piece of land. There are no plans to develop it, but then you go and borrow money at a high interest and use the land as security. When you fail to pay the loan, then they take the what? The land. So ask yourself, this item, can I be able to get it? Can I be able to get value out of it? Now, if you have items, assets which are underutilized, put them on the market. That is a cheap source of capital, and it can be able to push you through. Lastly, there is commercial credit and indirect development fund. I consciously put it at the bottom because many times when people talk about financing, the first thing which comes to their mind is Uganda. The first thing which comes to their mind when you think about commercial credit, many times you find that most of us get tied in credit which is more expensive than the credit which we would have appreciated having. So commercial credit is a good path for us to use. However, we need to ask ourselves, have we fully prepared? If the 6 above have not been well used, many times you head into credit without being fully prepared. And here I want to also touch on development finance. When we think about development finance, one of the things which is key is to ask yourself, how do I prepare myself to be able to access development finance? In Uganda, for example, a lot of the development finance can come through places like the Uganda Development Bank. However, for you to even be considered in the Uganda Development Bank, you have to be in the right sectors, and you need to have grown the business to a certain level so that you can be able to access that financing. Now, there are other places like IFC of the World Bank, which can also be able to support you. But when you think about someone who usually gets development financing, these are people who have used commercial credit well, and they have grown a reputation which they can be able to use to to be able to access development financing. So I think that many times when you think about commercial credit, when you think about development finance, it is the first thing which comes to people's minds before considering the other 6 above. Yet it is better for you to consider it as a last resort when you have interrogated the other 6 sources of financing. If the other 6 manage to work out, then possibly by the time you get here, you are looking for something to add to be able to find financing. So these are the various sources of business finance that I want you to think about when you think about export. You may want to say, which of these are available to me currently that I can be able to use to be able to venture into the export market? All these sources here presuppose that your business is organized enough, is structured enough to ensure that the money is safe within the business. So no one is going to give you development financing if you have no audited accounts and you have no proper systems within the business. You have to make sure that has been done for you to be able to access this. But the point which I want to emphasize here is that financing is not just money from the bank or money from a development partner. Financing can be broadened, and all these are options which we can be able to use to think about financing. Certainly another place which you may want to look at is and I talked about this a bit when you think about equity. Sometimes it's your own capital, but sometimes it is external equity. People want to buy into your business. In the country, we haven't yet polished this aspect of financing, and you find that many times businesses are skeptical to release equity to shareholder partners. But sometimes when you are getting into an external market, equity may be helpful because sometimes the equity doesn't just come with the money, but it comes with the expertise of that partner. So sometimes you want to possibly partner with an Israeli company, which may provide a bit of the market for the product which you're exporting. But they say that to secure our stake, we want a bit of equity in your business. And this can be helpful because they may be mutual benefit, where you are assured of the market because the person you are selling to is a shareholder in the business which you own. So I'll quickly just touch on each of them and then we can get into a discussion. The first one I'm going to touch on is equity. Equity, I've talked about this. We need to ask ourselves, if I am to put money in your business, if I am to buy a stake in your business, the character is of absolute importance. The character is of absolute importance because equity is driven by, it's not just financing a business, but it is literally getting in bed with that business owner. You are now part of the same team. So here the attitude is important, the character is important of the owner, because that way we can be able to know that my stake is safe. And this is where we have trouble. If you don't have structures within your business, many times equity partners will not run to your business because they are uncertain. If you're the kind of person who pulls out money over the weekend, no equity partner will want to do business with you. Then reinvestment of profits. This focuses on internal growth. It focuses on financial discipline. Make sure that a lot of the money which you make keeps coming back into the business, because this is the cheapest form of financing. If you are reinvesting your profits, you can be able to hold out a bit longer, even in difficult circumstances, as the ones which we have been in this year. If it is your money, you can be able to be more patient. So reinvesting the majority of the profits in your business is important. You remember that you are the number one thief of business financing. You as the business owner, many times you are the one who has taken out most of the money from the business. So you need to show and clearly display that money is being reinvested. If it's being reinvested, getting into the export market will be much simpler. I talked about grants. Grants, I said it is important to ensure that you appreciate that the grant is not necessarily free. There are things which you will have to display. There are reports which you need to make. And the other caution which I'll make here is that don't use grants as a place where you stay forever. Some people, everything they are going to do, they are looking out for a grant to push it. A grant is supposed to ease the pain, especially in the infancy of your export journey, but you should leave it. If you get stuck in grant financing, chances are high that your business will not be able to grow organically. It will always be subsidized, and that may not be able, it won't allow you to get the full benefit from your business. Supplier credit, I talked about this. It is a cheaper source of capital. However, it's driven by trust. Usually, the people who you are doing business with, you need to ensure that this trust is built and this trust is maintained. So every time you have suppliers who are giving you items on credit, make sure that if you promise that you will pay them on 30th of the month, their money is always there on 30th of the month, so that they can be able to grow in trust and they can be able to accept you to give you more supplier credit. Loans, we say they are double-edged swords. They can go either way. Now here, there are a couple of things I want to mention. When you're looking at debt to finance the export journey, make sure you don't exaggerate the amount which you need. Make sure that the loan is used for its intended purpose. Make sure that you pay it as agreed. Loan is used for its intended purpose and you pay it as agreed. And ensure that every time you take a loan, you inform the people who are close to you and tell them that I am in debt and we are going to go through a difficult period of time as we try to walk out of this debt. It is of absolute importance. Now, if you are going to get financing to loans to finance your export journey, you are going to have to exhibit very high levels of financial discipline. Why? Because now you are not even just playing in your local market, but you're playing in an external market. There are many things which are uncertain and you need to be careful. I would recommend that you avoid using loans, especially when you are just starting out in your export journey. Use your own capital, use your savings, but avoid experimenting with new business with loans. Many times it can prove a sad thing. I want to close by just making a point about all these forms of financing. There are places where you need to ensure that you have focused. One of the places which you need to ensure you are focused is making sure that your records are clean. Records of your purchases, records of your salaries, records of your stock, records of your sales, records of your personal expenses, assets registers. All these records need to be in place for you to be able to access the financing you need. These records are the tools which we use to keep ourselves in check and to keep ourselves disciplined. So I'll close by saying that it does not matter when, where, and how you start your export journey. What matters is how you move from where you are now to the next level. So make sure that you are running your business in a manner where you are constantly learning, you are constantly improving, and you're constantly looking out for ways to do things better. Money is the blood, finance is the blood of the business. It is what keeps it going. And many businesses have gone under because of misuse of finances or not fulfilling commitments. So those are a couple of the ideas which I wanted to talk about. I will leave it here and hand it back to Brenda.
Thank you very much, Ronald. Thank you so much. Okay. Ronald, we really appreciate the way you have articulated your presentation and brought to our participants the nitty-gritties or the detail that one needs to look out for. Many of us normally, once we start business, we run to the bank. We are looking for money. We need money. But one of the things that you mentioned is that financing is not only about money from the bank. So there is a lot more to it, and we need to get ourselves properly structured, properly organized for us to interface with the different sources. He also highlighted clearly some of the things that take away our capital internally, and as small organizations, we normally ignore some of these issues, and yet they are taking away a lot. He also cautiously warned us or raised our interest around how to get equity and how to even access monies from the bank. So based on our assessment as Export Promotion Board, we highlight finances in our questionnaire, which many of you have answered. And we have noted that as you set up your companies, you normally have big issues on finance. So we have requested that you look a little more into how you're going to finance your business. He highlighted information related to products, but also to services. Now, Ronald will be going away soon, so I'd like to request that we give him, we let him answer one of the questions that came through, and so that he may go before, after he has answered this question. Ronald, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. Now, the question to you is, okay, someone is asking that next evaluation that most of our SMEs don't yet, sorry, okay. You could also touch on business valuation that most of our SMEs don't yet think have, yet they want to borrow, sometimes issues of equity. The last part doesn't seem to come out clearly there, but I think what they're trying to raise is how small companies can do their business valuations, be able to go for business, for equity or bank loans.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Richard. I think when you look at the question, one of the things which is clear is many SMEs don't know what the value of their business is. And a lot of it is tied to just having no records. It's important that you have a balance sheet to be able to show clearly what's the value of the business. It's important that you have an income statement to show how much money has been made in a certain period. And I think that there is need to strengthen this. I guess there certainly has to be an entire shift in running. It may have to be a shift in the way businesses are run, so that businesses appreciate more having stronger records. Many businesses don't respect the need for those records. They only use them to the extent they help them to get financing. But many times no one will buy into your business if you can't show them the track record of your business, of how it has been performing for the last 3, 4, 5 years. So it's important that happens. I think one of the other things which is key, certainly the businesses themselves need to know what the valuation of business is, but we also need to strengthen the association so that the standards go up. I think business associations are a good place to be able to say we need to raise the general level of our businesses in terms of record keeping, in terms of the way we run businesses. So that's something else which I think might be practical in helping businesses have value their, helping the business owners value their businesses a bit more, and putting us in a position where we are not simply guessing what the value of a business is.
Okay, Ronald, the other question, thank you very much for that. The other question is, we have had different services companies come to us saying banks do not offer credit for services because of its intangibility. So you could probably, speak to this and guide us, because some of them say they can't get, credit from banks. They are either, their service is intangible, so the banks don't seem to understand how to service that. So you could speak to that a bit.
Sorry, Brenda, I seem to have missed a bit of that question.
Okay, the question is, as we interface with different companies, some of them tell us they have approached banks and they are not able to get a loan because they are in services. And one of the things that is raised is because, services are intangible. So banks don't seem to have the right products to be able to give credit to such companies. Maybe you could speak to something like that. I don't know whether you, in your experience, faced such a scenario or something else that we don't know.
Yeah, I think that's an absolutely, it's an absolutely challenging area. Part of the reason is that I guess there is a lot of learning which has to happen for the banking sector to fully understand the economy which we are running. I guess most banks have leaned towards more traditional financing options. They like financing things where the collateral is clear. They like financing things where which are more traditional sectors. And sometimes understanding services may prove a bit challenging. And some will say, if you are let's say a freight company, if you are doing clearing services, I don't know how to assess that business. So I think there is a problem there. I guess for me, what seems to be a potential solution is one, we need to have strong advocacy with organizations like PSFU, UEPB. There has to be that direct advocacy so that the voice comes out clearly that we need to find solutions for these businesses. So that's one. But secondly, I think we, as the business community, we need to ask, how do we influence the banking sector more by allowing ourselves to define more the way we want to be financed? I personally think that sectors have to ask themselves how they strengthen. Even I would be very excited if they tell me that the association of clearing has a circle which is worth 2 billion. If that circle is worth 2 billion, then that means it can possibly access credit from banks, which can service their members, but this credit can be more sector specific. So I guess that we might want to be a bit creative with our financing solutions so that we start seeing more businesses saving a bit more, but
Ronald, we seem to have lost you. Sorry about that. I think we lost Ronald at that point, but I think he had made his point clear. Ronald, are you back?
yeah, sorry, my line had dropped, but I think let me just close with that point. I was just saying that we need to be very creative in the way we get financed and how we influence conversations on financing. I personally think that more sector-driven financing options need to be interrogated so that sectors can be able to look for financing as sectors and push their agenda. And I think that will inevitably change the way banks behave. If banks start seeing that actually this is a big sector, it's a sector which is pushing financing, then they will design products in that sector also.
Great. Thank you so much, Ronald. I think now we can let you go. We really appreciate your input. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be able to get you Ronald's presentation. And if you have any further questions, please post them in the Q&A, and we shall be able to get them to him, and he'll be able to respond. So our time is quickly running out. I'd like to ask our last presenter today to take his 30 minutes. That is Mr. John Luere. His presentation is already up. He's going to speak briefly about organization capabilities. Here he'll specifically look at the company staff competences. He'll also look at the skills and the skills that you would need to have your company put together as a service export company. So John, you're very welcome. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Brenda. Hello, good morning. I hope I can be heard.
Yes, John, you're very clear. Please go ahead.
Okay, so thank you very much, Brenda, for the introduction. My name is Luere John, a trade information executive with Uganda Export Promotion Board. And I will be basically talking about organizational capabilities, some of which Brenda has alluded to in her introduction. Sorry. Okay, sorry, there's a small glitch. Now, when you are looking at the export readiness assessment, in part 6, we are talking about organizational capabilities. And some of the things that were looked at under that part were issues relating to management, capabilities around marketing, promotion, production control, of course, including honoring orders, and then capabilities around organizational structures, recruitment, and training. Now, these are things that all of us within our organizations are really, I don't know, I should say familiar with in very basic terms. So what I want to talk about today is I want to give you a perspective where all this relates to how we can grow our export performance as farms and then as a country. To start with, I would really like to put the whole thing into context by giving some quick definitions of what it is that we really talk about when it comes to organizational capabilities. Now, organizational capabilities are those capacities that enable a farm to be able to deploy its resources effectively and efficiently to perform whatever tasks or activities they are set out to perform, or even to improve their own performance. So it's ideally how you manage your resources effectively. So they also relate to how we coordinate the different tasks that we've laid out within our organization, utilizing whatever resources are available to us to achieve a particular result. So it's all a mix of what I want to do and what resources I have available to me and how I manage the balance between the two. Importantly, organizational capabilities allow firms to create new products and processes, that is, to effectively adapt to the market environment that is around them. So that is one of the key things why we think this is very important to you, any given farm, whether you're doing exports or you're in domestic, or you're in the domestic arena. The capabilities, of course, will vary from farm to farm. However, through some studies done, there are some commonalities that we've identified based on the kind of the size of the farm. So which is what I briefly put out here in the table. Now, for example, we have capabilities relating to leaders or leadership, if I may say. So we find that large enterprises or large firms the leaders focus more on the strategic activities. Okay, unlike in the case of micro, where leaders focus more on the operational activities. So small and medium, of course, in between there. Now, the reason I'm laying this out is it helps you understand where you are as a firm. Two, when you look at management, large firms go for the participative management. SMEs go for a mix where you have the supervision and then command and control, whereas the micros go for more command and control kind of management style. When we look at organizational structure, we find that in micro enterprises or firms, it is really a flat structure because of the people involved and the kind of processes involved. Whereas when as you go up from the small to the large, you find that it kind of transforms into a hierarchical structure, whereby you have a management level, a medium management level, and then going down to the operational levels. Okay, so again, you find that the shape the enterprise or the farm takes will also vary depending on the size or stage at which it is. Then again, another issue relating to capabilities is that of systems and procedures. We find that large firms really focus on developing more formal control systems with a high degree of standardization. So we believe that because the farm has grown in size, okay, so for management to be able to effectively manage or to control the processes, they have to come up with a formal control system, and they have to come up with standard procedures. So that's why standardization then becomes very important. Okay. Whereas where we look at micro, again, the standardization and formalization is much lower. So again, this is just emerging, developing, so it requires time to build these systems. Now, the other characteristic also, sorry, the internet connection is a bit unstable, but please bear with us. Human resource. Now, we see that micro emerging enterprises do not invest a lot in training staff. They usually want to go into the market and pick out staff that have the skills and competences they're looking for. However, as the enterprise evolves, that is moving from small to large, we find that it adapts more of training and staff development programs, whereby they try to develop internal capacity. Probably this creates loyalty at some level, because high staff turn the firm's performance. So they try to kind of build the skills they need, and then it's some kind of loyalty through programs like these. Then also more informal customer relation, because
Yes, Debbie, we can hear you. JB, hello, JB, we have lost you. We can't hear you. JB is trying to reconnect. Something went wrong with his network. Just give us a few minutes, please. Sorry about that. Just give us a few minutes. So as connects, I'd like to request all those once we are done with Mr. Luere's presentation, we have a few questions. The panelists look through them. We prepare to answer them. So let's give JB a few minutes to link in again. back. Yep. So JB, you can unmute and progress.
Yes, hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, JB, we can hear you.
Just a minute. My screen, can you, is it shared?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. Just a
Yeah.
minute, please.
It's great.
Share option seems to be disabled.
Yes, now you can see your
Okay,
presentation.
my apologies. Yeah, for that so I was briefly going through some of the things, some of the the capabilities that the commonalities that that have been identified through various studies that relate to farm capabilities, depending on size and how these farms evolve from the micro to the large. Now, we will also look at capabilities in other two perspectives, the operational and then the dynamic. Now, operation capabilities are the capabilities that the farm uses to perform the everyday tasks. Okay, tasks that enable it to provide the existing products or services to the consumer person. So these are fundamentally these are fundamentally the capabilities that you need to run your day-to-day activities as an enterprise. So they are important to sustain and improve business performance. Okay, so we basically look at them, the two kinds here. We're looking at things relating to continuous improvement and then capabilities relating to strategy development and implementation. Of course, this is business strategy. Now, when we look at dynamic, here we look at capabilities that help you to integrate, build, and reconfigure. That is to adapt to the changing environment. Operational are the day-to-day, your fundamental products or services that you deliver. Dynamic are those that enable you to adapt and grow to the environment in which you operate. Okay, so apart from looking at the capabilities in the forms that we described in the table above, we also look at capabilities in these two perspectives. Now, another important thing that we'll also look at each time we talk about capabilities is the organizational culture. That is the way we do things as an organization or as a company. So this, embedded in this, are three key elements: assumptions, values, and artifacts. So assumptions, these are the widely held views, okay, in the company about human nature, social relationships, about the business environment, about the market we're operating in, because these will define a lot the kind of strategy you adopt, and then how you build your internal capabilities to cope with the environment in which you're working. Two, you have values. I think as companies, most of us, we always talk about values. We talk about values, things like integrity, things like accountability and all that. Now that is, again, what we have under values. These, again, impact your organizational culture or how you do things as an organization. Then the third thing is artifacts. So these relate more to rituals, slogans, tradition you develop over time that you think define you as an enterprise. organization and your capabilities. So again, when we talk about capabilities, we also, in the same spirit, look at the organizational culture, how the organization does whatever it is that it does. Now, how does this all evolve? How does it all show up? Now, we find that your capabilities or your culture will really tell us, will really evolve into, will really define your firm's behavior. And these we've basically divided into 4 groups. Now you find that there are firms that their capabilities, say resources, both human and financial, their networks and everything, okay, they focus more on building their ability to perform the basic function activities. I think this will mostly see with the emerging enterprises. Because of the limitations we have, we can only focus on that for the start. 2, as the enterprise, we find that focus turns from basic functionality to dynamic improvements in the activities of the firm. That is, for example, we've just been developing software. Now, as we build our capabilities, our resource pool enlarges, then we start turning focus on how do we improve these services. Then at the 3rd stage, again, as the resources and capabilities grow, then again, we start looking at the intrinsic value of the resources we have at our disposal, or how we develop novel strategies. So of course, here again, we've moved from stage 1 where we looked at how we use the resources from the basic activities, and now 3, we were looking at how do we use the resources and the capabilities we have to put ourselves ahead of the competition. And then the last category is what we call the higher order or the meta capabilities. So this looks like the highest level, where we are at that point where we are the market leaders and we define ourselves as the niche or the top, being at the top of the value chain, if I may put it that way. So I believe with that, we now have a fair idea of what we really mean when we talk about organizational capabilities and what our expectations are. Now, I want to move to the second part and talk about why is this all important. Now, I want to use the case of India's IT sector. Now, when we study the India's IT and IT sector, we find that there are 4 key elements that have helped them to grow and move ahead. And we find that firm capabilities are one of those 4 factors. Of course, the other, the favorable conditions, high domestic demand, then existence of related supporting industry, those are there. But we find that firm capabilities have been very, very critical to this growth and development. Now, I want to pick on 2 issues out of this case. One, I'll start with the firm size. Now, we find that in industries, in India's IT sector, which I think is really more like our own here, only 1% of the firms account for more than 40% of the exports. So you would expect that the large firms eclipse the small ones. However, what we find is that because of their abilities to manage their resources and build their capabilities effectively, small and emerging enterprises have found a way of identifying niche segments where they can thrive while circumventing competition from the major industrial players. So what does this tell us? That we have to take a very realistic look at what our capabilities are as a firm. Then we look at what the market structure is in the market in which we're operating. Then we define a niche segment where we feel that we can effectively operate given our farm capabilities. And if we do that, we shall be able to survive and even elude competition from other bigger players that we're usually worried about, okay, suffocating us out of the market. So that is one key point I picked from that India case. The second thing is relating to competitiveness strategies. Now, we've also find that one of the key things as to why it is important for us to fully understand our organization capabilities is it helps us to clearly define what our competitiveness strategies are and whether or not they are effective within the market environment in which you're operating. So one of the things, for example, for India, why they've managed to thrive in the global market is after looking at the way the market is going, especially with the slowdown of the US economy, and then the decline in the volume of outsourcing business, and then emergence of other destinations. Now they had to find something that differentiates them from the other businesses or from the other destinations. So what they did is they looked internally and then they found a way of becoming innovative. And so, according to studies that have been done, in India, innovation has been identified as the key differentiating factor that has kept them ahead of the competition. So what really this involves is they're looking at new forms of their organization structure. How do they reorganize their firms to become more effective? They've looked at how to come up with value-based pricing models. So you look at the products, you look at the processes, and then you see how you can really enhance the customer or the consumer value. They've also looked at process innovations. How do we make our internal processes better? They've looked at investing in things like IPs. When they come up with an innovation, they protect it. They've looked at building expertise. This is where the issue of staff skills comes in. Now, the reason here I'm talking about staff skills generally is because every service industry has its own service requirements. And you see the kind of skills or staffing you come up with has to fit within your strategy and the market you're targeting. So each time I talk about staff competences and skills, I talk about it broadly, but down there, we really have to think within the environment or the parameters in which we're working. What real staff skills and competences do we want? Now, the third thing, again, which speaks to that, is the other issue I picked out of the India case, the attributes of India's workforce. Now, again, if we look at the IT and IT sector, we find that the workforce that is churned out by, say, the educational institutions is tailored to the industry, the IT and IT sector, because that's the industry it is servicing. So here it looks at what kind of education, the quality of education that is being provided, the skill set, exposure to frontiers, so to new technologies, and then the language. Now, these are some of the skills that we need to look at when we're choosing what kind of staffing or staff we need for organization. Now, there's a quote here that I've brought out, which tries to spell out the specifics of that skill force. Now, apart from the trainings or the qualifications, like the degrees in programming or insurance or whatever it is, we find that there are other attributes that we need to think of, again, when we're really developing our staff skills and competences. For example, for India, it says there are a number of social cultural factors that have influenced the attributes of the workforce. And some of these include the submissive nature of the workforce because of their social structure, the historical. I think we're all familiar with how the social structure is in India. Two, their disciplined approach to work. Again, this is another element they think that is critical with the Indian workforce and they're using. to kind of like entice companies to come and outsource in India, the structured method of analysis, design, and project management. So what happens here is India has picked out some skills that it believes are very relevant in the IT and IT's sector globally. So what they're trying to do is to enhance these skills on how they enhance these skills to fit within the paradigm, they call the paradigm they are operating in of the IT in the IT sector. So that is why, again, your staff competences are very important. So lastly, out of all this, the key question is, what are the lessons for Uganda? Now, I want to borrow from work we've been doing with ITC on developing a value proposition for Uganda, and then looking at capabilities, and then pick out one or two things that I think are very important for us going forward. One, Ugandan firms have developed, or say maybe the workforce has the fundamental technical competencies. For example, for the IT sectors, we have programmers and all that. However, it is now important that we start looking at the other soft skills that are essential to creating efficiency and effectiveness. And the example I can give is this very example of the India sector, where they're looking at the disciplined approach to work, the structured method of analysis, design, and project management. So we need to start picking on those other additional skills that present us as more effective and efficient, so that we fit in well with the organizations that we intend to service. Number two, standardization and technology upgradation. These two areas are going to be very essential for us going forward into the global market. Yes, we have our own methods of doing things. We have our internal processes. However, our market may not fully understand what those are. So that's why we need now to start standardizing, and we need to start looking at how do we ensure that we are up to date, especially when it comes to technology, when it comes to methodologies and all that. Number three, innovation. Again, as highlighted earlier, is in the global market, innovation is now a very key differentiating factor. So, especially in the service industry, we have to ensure that at all times we are at the ahead of our competition. And the only thing we can do this is to try to be continuously innovative. How we can achieve this is, first and foremost, is looking at how we are structured internally, what our capabilities are. Then we'll define how we use, first of all, the resources that we have to be continuously innovative and continuously improve on our processes. Then we can start coming up with more innovative solutions and keeping ahead of the curve. So ladies and gentlemen, lastly is there is assistance. For example, Uganda Export Promotion Board and the ministry are open. You can come, we can have one-on-one discussion on how we can help your farm improve its own capabilities. And I think that's why that particular section is covered in the export readiness assessment. Then two, you can also make use of consultants and other entities out there to try and build these capabilities. So you don't really have to go it alone. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, John. We fully appreciate a very detailed presentation. From John's presentation, I picked a few tips that I can share. One, capability. A company's capability, for you to strengthen that, or for you to develop that, first understand the market that you want to serve. Where am I taking my services? Who needs my services? What are they going to buy from me? Understand what the market is looking for, and then identify where you belong. You cannot serve everybody in the market. Pick your niche and be able to service that niche very well. The other issue is about competitiveness, and this starts with your internal processes. What exactly have you put together in terms of your processes? Some of us, because we think we have a computer in front of us, we can design and program, that is it. But for export of services, you need to have clear processes because you're dealing with demand that is out of here, and you will definitely need a lot more expertise. So you need to put your expertise together. You need to make sure that you have proper internal services. Then your workforce, he talked about the soft skills. Here it's very important for services to have the right people in the right places, but also key is in terms of the skills that they have. He gave examples of the IT and IT services, but this cuts across all different service exports. Many of them, relate to exactly what he was talking about. Then finally, being different, differentiate from the rest. And this is strengthened by how innovative your team is. Are you be able to innovate and create different services from what the rest are offering? It could be, even just the small things that you do with your businesses that will definitely interest buyers. So John, thank you so much. Now I'd like us to go into questions. We'll take the next 30 minutes for questions. I will go through the questions that we had in the chat, and I think most of them are to the Executive Director. Edie, I hope you're still with us. Most of the questions are to Edie. The first question. Sorry, I'll just check if the ED is on. The first question was, sorry about that. ED, are you with us? Okay, the first question to the ED. The first question is, thank you, ED, for your presentation. Kindly elaborate more on how UEPB helps exporters to get aid. That was Paul Onek. ED, kindly, you can answer that question. You could answer that question, or I can read through all the four. I don't know how you'd like it done. Go through all your phones and you respond to them.
Thank you very much. I saw more questions. I don't know whether Kofi has taken them. I had more questions that I wanted to answer all of them at a go. Yeah, so thank you, participants, for being in the meeting up to now. You are asking me the first question, or you go the way you want? Brenda?
I think you can go the way you want. Edie, you can go the way you most comfortable. Because
okay. So Paul Onek is saying, how would we help exporters to get paid? We have handled more than many. Actually, there are now many. In fact, now that the exporters have known that we do handle this, which we call exporter aftercare, and we help both sides. If a Ugandan company doesn't pay the exporter, we come in. If a foreign buyer doesn't pay our exporters, we come in. We have our processes. Basically, we begin with the diplomatic channels. We begin with the simple way of requesting as a government organization tasked with coordination of all export-related activities with our mandate, which is government, which is by act of parliament. We request the companies that have not paid our Ugandan suppliers, or Ugandan exporters, or Ugandan producers that have supplied, we request them to pay. And we give them deadlines. And we show them that beyond these deadlines, we will take other steps. And please remember that we have our missions in those countries, and we have our staffers in those countries at our mission who have capacity. There are financial challenges, of course. We are a developing country subject to budget, but they can even go up to the buyer and find them in their offices and have discussions with them. For now, we have not reached that level. Most people have been paying. And for 2020 and 2025, we have a whole program of exporter aftercare to ensure that no one loses money when they have supplied. And so we reach them, we write to them officially, and we involve our foreign affairs, we involve internal affairs, we involve Minister of Justice. Another question is, what is Export Promotion Board doing harmonization of what is considered an export of services, as yours seems to differ from URA for tax purposes, especially. Let's understand what Frank Mulamula you are saying. I know you are from clearing and forwarding, logistics management. Let's discuss that, what you mean, and we will be able to handle it with ULA, and we are partners. We are ULA. We are together. We are government, and we work together. Paul, next, thank you. We shall contact you on the customer in Morocco. Yes, you come in. Then what do you say on the demand by ULA to deliver goods at an ICD before goods are released by customs for dispatch, even when there is no revenue risk? This introduces extra costs. Again, I think, Mulamula, we need to have a very candid and serious discussion with you, and we understand this, especially from the point of logistics management, includes stores, includes transport, clearing and forwarding, and you'll be sure that we will handle. We will handle, and you have seen that NDP3's export promotion strategy is a development strategy, and the Uganda Export Promotion Board, if you look at NDP3, we have been given more than 17 responsibilities or actions that we have to handle. So this should not be a problem. Are you government agencies working together for common achievements? Yes, the new NDP, the NDP3 now, has created what we call program working groups. We are no longer working as what we used to call sector working groups, which meant that each sector, and sometimes it is one ministry, they would work together only. Now with the program working group, we work as programs. For example, private sector development program, under which we are supposed to be funded under budget called Circular 1, is led by Minister of Finance. But also our Minister of Trade is also supported under the same program, UIA, and other agencies, including finance. Then we have like manufacturing. You find manufacturing, the Minister of Trade is leading. We are there for our marketing role. We have investment authority. We have others, including the private sector. So programs go beyond ministries. They are wider than ministries, and that is bringing in coordination. It is bringing in cohesion. it is bringing working together. For the next 5 years, you'll see a fundamental change. Number 5 is Uganda, the most entrepreneurial country we know. Why do we fail? There are many reasons, and they have been written in newspapers several times, why Uganda comes up with a lot of entrepreneurial ideas, but within 3 years they have collapsed. Many ways. Some Ugandans come in to try their way out, and then it doesn't work, they leave it. The issue of commitment by the entrepreneurs. The second one is financing, access to credit. Commercial bank credit, honestly, in this country is expensive. That's why the government now is trying to put in quite some money at Uganda Development UDB, putting some money at Microfinance Support Center. And again, some of you are in services that support agriculture and other aspects, you have agricultural credit fund. But then, I mean, it will be more than that, because again, government, and I'm not a spokesperson of government, I'm a spokesperson of Uganda Export Promotion Board, has put other monies, other funds under Emyoga, other funds under innovation funds. And I think we can keep discussing this. We had a virtual session last week or so, and we discussed, last week, we discussed sources of finance. So that is related to why enterprises and entrepreneurial ideas fail. But also there is the aspect of course, we need to be able as government agencies to help companies to be competitive by supporting them. Let me mention that NDP3 now has stated categorically the role of the state. The state will be in to create an enabling environment. The state will be in to support private sector to do business. We note that when a country is developing, a country in the development state, they don't have enough money, and also SMEs don't have enough money to do, for example, market studies, market research, but they would have some little money to enter these markets if government can give them information, if government can negotiate some deals, if government can get us buyers. Let's mention that all developing countries, including all developed countries and advanced developing countries, have had to go through a development stage and have had the role of the state being strong, being important. If you doubt me, then you go and read a lot of books by the former chief economist of the World Bank, Professor Stiglitz, who has written many books, and he tells you bringing back government. Government is important. You cannot leave everything to the private sector. And I am so happy that NDP3 has recognized that. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Edie. Thank you so much. I think those were the key questions. For Paul, please come in. I can see you've posted. Thank you, Edie. Edie responded to that and invited you so that we have further discussions. Samramra, we have noted your contact details. We shall reach you so that we can have further discussions on what you're raising with us. So ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of today's session. I'd like to remind you that this is a 2-day training. Please take note, we have tomorrow, we have a session starting at exactly 9, and we will have our speaker. The first speaker will be from Ministry of Trade, talking about strategy and designing a strategy for SMEs. We will also have a discussion on channels of delivery. That will be done by one of us from Uganda Export Promotion Board. Our next presentation will be from Mr. Muhammad Zamhingo from KIU, sorry. He'll be speaking to us about monitoring and keeping track of the quality of service delivery. Then finally, we'll have somebody from ITC, Mr. Joseph Walusimbi, speaking to us about basics of developing a service export plan and how you come up with one, and the skills that you would need. So that will be our program for tomorrow. So ladies and gentlemen, at this point, allow me to conclude this training for now, and thank you so much for your participation. I know there is a lot more that you would want us to discuss, but because of time, we can't go on. But I would also like to specifically appreciate the companies that have gone in and done the export readiness assessment. You have been the ones who have enabled us to actually come up with these kind of trainings. So it is not just that we ask for assessments, we ask for you to answer all those questions, but these are some of the results, because then they define how we support the services export sector. So please, when you go in to submit your assessment or to answer the questions that are on the online tool, please do it with honesty. Don't just go in and say yes to all the questions. Do it with honesty, because it defines how we are able to work with you and support you. Thank you very much. I think we can end our training for today.